Welcome to Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMello. On today's show, we focus on positive mental health and well-being. And we're doing it right here at the Rubin Museum, where their latest exhibit is Healing Practices Stories from Himalayan Americans. I'll have more on this exhibit and the Tibetan community, but first, here's a look at what's ahead on our show. We visit the oldest mental health agency serving New Yorkers since 1898. Pampering moms, traditional Korean postnatal care. How financially prepared are Asian Americans? We have surprise findings on money matters. This and more on Asian American Life. Tibetan Buddhist art has long been associated with well-being, and that's the theme that the Rubin Museum, along with community members, wanted to explore after COVID upended all our lives. I met with one of those community members who shares her story of healing and elevating the lives of those around her.
Every session, right before we start the class, we assemble as a group and we sit in circle, and then we meditate.
Chime Dolma founded YindaYin Coaching and Educational Center 7 years ago. It's a home away from home for the mostly Tibetan immigrant children and teens whose families settled in Queens.
When I was growing up, there was this strong sort of habit of saying, we're stateless, we're refugees, we don't have anything, we can't do this or that. And there was a lot of like, I can't do this. So my colleague and I were thinking about a name for this organization, and we thought it was really befitting to name it YindaYin, which means yes, we can. To change the narrative to say, yes, we the immigrants, we the refugees, we the stateless people can change the world and become change agents.
Dolma grew up in the mountains of Tibet, a former sovereign nation now governed by China. In the 1950s, China invaded Tibet and overthrew the government. In 1959, after a failed anti-Chinese uprising, the 14th Dalai Lama fled Tibet and set up an exiled government in India. Since then, an estimated 1.2 million Tibetans have been killed and thousands more have fled. Dolma lived a nomadic life in the mountains with her family before making the trek to India, where she learned to read and write. She then emigrated to the U.S. The illiterate girl who once raised yaks attended college with the help of scholarships and now teaches history at Riverdale Country School. She is part of a growing enclave of Tibetan immigrants. Today, an estimated 13,000 live in New Jersey and New York.
We're a very young group of immigrants here in the US. Most of us came later in the, I would say, early 2000s. So it's been only about 20 years since we have settled here, which means that we have to build our infrastructure from zero. There's really no support system for that particular group of immigrants. And so I thought, it would be really important for us to start building that infrastructure to have that system to support and thrive in this new country.
One of those infrastructures are organizations like YindaYin, where they offer a wide variety of classes, all centered on a teaching model developed by Emory University and Tibet's spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, called SEE, Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning, a curriculum that emphasizes interdependence.
Having DJ Loga play some music.
Oh,
yeah.
For young people like Tsering Damdul, YindaYin has been transformative.
I came in first when I was 12 years old and I was very quiet. In school I was particularly very quiet, and I had a hard time speaking up in class. And I think a part of that was because I lacked confidence, and I wasn't fully aware of my own assets and strengths as a student and as an individual.
This once quiet girl seen here playing guitar in the video is now a college sophomore at Fordham studying to be a doctor, and she's still part of the YindaYin family.
I became more confident, and because of that, I had many opportunities that YindaYin gave me. I was able to take part in the classroom setting, teach younger kids about Tibetan culture and heritage, and network with other organizations.
Even during the pandemic, YindaYin continued to offer classes.
What part did you like the most, Besang?
For many immigrant families, the programs help keep their children connected, not just to their teachers and friends, but to their roots.
My nomadic Tibetan people who never probably held a pen or a book in their hands, but there is that years of tradition and wisdom that can help us heal in this complex, complicated world.
And today, as we emerge from the pandemic, Dolma hopes that wisdom from her ancestors can help New Yorkers heal. She is one of the community members who shared their healing story in the Rubin Museum's exhibit, Healing Practices, Stories from Himalayan Americans.
We all shared our individual connections to these objects and talked about our healing journey.
The exhibit showcases 25 objects featuring interviews with members of the community, from spiritual leaders, activists, doctors, and teachers. Dolma was asked to reflect on this painting by contemporary artist Tsering Sherpa.
The Bodhisattva is holding sort of his fists sort of clenched together, and I was supposed to sort of interpret what it means, and I sort of connected to the pandemic and how even the spiritual beings or demons are ready to sort of battle that pandemic with the help of science.
By sharing her story, she and others hope it will help museum goers do the same.
The only way we will heal is by sharing and leaning on each other's shoulders, right? Because if we suffer alone, I think that is the greatest suffering.
I'm Ernabelle DeMillo for Asian American Life.
The COVID-19 pandemic and the rise in anti-Asian hate has taken a toll on Asian American seniors suffering from fear and isolation. Hamilton-Madison House in New York City's Chinatown has a fresh take on how to provide nourishment for both body and mind with some produce.
15-year-old Manrou spends her Sundays working at the Two Bridges Farmers Market at Hamilton-Madison House on the outskirts of New York City's Chinatown. She says the hour-and-a-half ride by subway from her home in Queens is worth it.
I basically come here every Sunday. This is like a family for me, so it's like a safe haven.
Manrou and her friend Alex Zhu are part of a youth leadership program at Hamilton-Madison House called LIFT, an acronym that stands for
Needing Initiative Fostering Togetherness. We come together at a common purpose, and I think that's to take care of this community here.
Funded by the Asian American Federation's Hope Against Hate initiative, the Two Bridges Farmers Market doesn't just provide organic produce in a neighborhood considered a food desert. It bridges the gap between language and the ages. Hamilton-Madison House is a social service agency founded more than 100 years ago to help new immigrants. Today, it's one of the biggest providers of behavioral health services to New York City's Asian community. This market is just part of their holistic approach to address mental health.
This intergenerational thing that we've been doing, I think it puts a smile on their face that like the younger generation are putting in work, and that's what my grandma thinks of me. Like she always thinks that when you're young and putting hard work, you will always lead a life of enjoyment.
But fear and isolation has taken a toll on Asian American seniors, and the demand for mental health services at Hamilton-Madison House has increased dramatically, says Lilya Berns.
So people who were having thoughts of suicide prior to the pandemic, they were more likely to talk about it. But during the peak of the pandemic, people were more likely to act on behaviors such as cutting or attempt to, take pills to sort of alleviate a lot of the isolation.
Asian American seniors are not alone. Asian American youth like Manrou experienced the same sense of isolation during the pandemic. Manrou decided to get a job at the market.
It's helped me with my mental health because of how there's always this one spot that I could come to whenever I just need to be there, see more, do more, instead of just sleeping on the bed on Sunday because it's not healthy. Just sleeping, it's not.
I just saw Mrs. Fong here, and I've been helping her. She's a senior. She lives in my building on the 17th floor.
Local resident Candace Ng says she too enjoys the weekly ritual.
The farmers market is excellent. I love it.
It definitely does like make them go out more, since I already know my grandma's an elder herself, and the only reason she goes out is shopping.
Manrou says the market didn't just draw them out from isolation. It gave them a sense of purpose.
It's really rewarding to help people. Like, it's a good feeling to help people. It's just something that should be done for the community.
For Asian American Life, I'm Rainer Ramirez.
I'm Kyung-Yoon. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but in urban centers like New York City, where new moms can often feel alone, there's a new way to find support and care after giving birth.
You want to sleep.
First-time mom Elize Kim gave birth to her baby boy in July.
My husband and I moved to New York City last year. We were all far from families and friends. My husband is really busy. He works a lot, so I really had to get help as much as I can for this journey. So that's why I chose Boram Care.
The day after her delivery, Elize and her baby came straight from the hospital to this newly opened care center for moms and infants, located on the 9th floor of Manhattan's 5-star Langham Hotel on 5th Avenue.
The support that we have is structured and dedicated postpartum recovery service.
Boram Nam is the co-founder of Boram Postnatal Retreat, the first of its kind in the U.S. She says it was her experiences of feeling overwhelmed after giving birth to her own 2 children in America that inspired her and her husband and business partner, Suk Park, to open this pampering and healing center for new moms, featuring 16 guest rooms and services that include a trained 24/7 care team, postnatal massage, nutritious food, and more.
I got hands-on help around the clock, even in the middle of the night, if I needed help on anything for myself or for my baby. As a breastfeeding mom, I can't sleep the whole night, but at least, after feeding him, I can just send him to the nursery and then they'll take care of him. And then I can, sleep at least for 2 hours straight. That was really, really good.
We have a hands-on training so that we can help reduce any anxiety or postpartum fatigue that may come from not knowing what to do, not having enough knowledge about the self-care and a baby care.
In the couple's native country of South Korea, postnatal care centers called Choriwon have become the norm after childbirth. This is the gap, bridging hospital to home, that Boram Postnatal Retreat seeks to fill in this country.
The U.S. has the highest mortality rate, maternal mortality rate amongst the OECD countries. And it's just a data that reflects the lack of care in this space.
Asia community may be a little more fast-paced. However, during their postpartum journey, they take time to slow down. Here in the US, culturally, I think we need to empower mothers to take their time to slow down, to let them know it's okay to take the time off. Let's take that time to focus on your healing.
The founders say their longer-term goal is to shift the way people see postnatal care in this country, not as a luxury, but as a necessity.
The key here is to gather enough data in the next 5 to 7 years to present the case that this is something that is essential. Postnatal care as essential care, that it should be covered by insurance.
Elize Kim agrees and has this message for fellow new moms.
After you give birth, it's so easy to fall in love with your baby right away, but it's very easy to forget about yourself because you're just putting in everything into your baby. So I would say, they should take care of themselves too, because happy mother means happy baby. So I want them to really find all the resources as possible and all the, can get all the help as possible as they can.
The founders of Boram Retreat have a vision to expand to other cities and make this kind of care more accessible geographically and financially for more families. I'm Kyung Yoon for Asian American Life.
We're all familiar with the stereotype that Asians are good at math, and many may assume they're also good with finances. But some surprising new findings challenge that notion.
Kim Myung's mom recently moved in with her family, and she's found that helping her immigrant mom handle financial affairs has been challenging.
My mother's reluctant to share financial information, but also to, I think, engage in some of the ways that people in this country can have passive income and wealth management.
An attitude that seems to be common among Asian Americans, according to a recent study conducted by global financial services firm UBS.
Our studies found that Asian Americans, while they were investing, weren't necessarily putting their money in advanced planning or wealth planning, thinking about their estate.
Asian Americans age 42 and older were significantly less prepared than other groups when it came to estate planning.
Asian Americans are less likely to have a will or an estate plan. Asian Americans are less likely to have spoken to their children about such plan or even to have talked to their heirs about where those assets are held.
A possible reason for this: learned behavior.
The stat that really sticks out to me is that over 3/4 of Asian Americans, and then definitely matches my own personal experience, grew up in households where wealth was not discussed.
Which may also explain why Asian American respondents of all ages requested more help than other groups in many areas, including retirement, tax, and long-term care planning.
We did see that Asian Americans were quite likely to both be taking care of children, adult children even in some cases, as well as taking care of their parents.
Many of them immigrants like Aung's mom who aren't familiar with Western financial services.
In Burma, where I'm from, people often will keep their wealth in jewelry because the local currency there is weak and might fluctuate.
So do you think there is a certain level of distrust?
Yes, definitely. So I think the combination of being new to the US, being new to kind of financial services, and then not hearing about it at home oftentimes made it so they weren't necessarily taking advantage of all of the opportunities available.
Including financial advisors, of which only 57% of Asian American respondents said they use.
There are times in our cultures where we as Asian Americans will pay for advice because we think we'll get a better result. And so I think financial planning is no different.
Sundarem says if you can't afford an advisor or just aren't comfortable using one, then get organized on your own. Begin investing by starting small, educate yourself, and set expectations. Most importantly, break the silence.
Seems to be a stigma in some Asian American communities about talking about wealth, and I think we have to break that. It's very important. If we want to be able to support our children, support our families, support our communities, then we need to be able to build that wealth and transfer that wealth.
For Asian American Life, I'm Susan Jun.
That's our show for now. If you have the time, be sure to check out the Rubin Museum's Healing Practices Stories from Himalayan Americans. And if you want to learn more about our stories, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We'll see you next time.